Well, tonight's standoff in Parliament as minority opposes new legislative instrument seeking to regulate the prices of cement in the country, insisting the Trade Ministry must direct its focus to passing a law to regulate all products on the Ghanaian market.
And we are of the view that if today an ally is allowed to pass through Parliament, which will control the price of cement, then equally all goods and services produced in this particular country must go through price control.
We have exclusive details from a Marathon Subsidiary Legislation Committee meeting, but we'll hear from customers who are backing legislative instrument being sponsored by the Trade Ministry.
As we are talking now, I have received an email that from 1st July they will increase cement. If you ask them, what they are telling is the dollar has gone up, the cost of items have increased.
All that I would say is, if the bill is going to help us, then I'm okay with it.
Well, that's all here on Top Story, brought to you by Telecel, Connecting Energies. Well, tonight there is a standoff in Parliament over the proposed legislative instrument to regulate the prices of cement on the market. The NDC minority has finally declared their stance. They are opposed to the instrument in its current form. The LI, being sponsored by the Trade and Industry Minister Katie Hammond, has been opposed by cement manufacturers who have urged Parliament not to allow it to become law. We'll take you to Parliament shortly, but let's take a listen to the Trade and Industry Minister, who says the bill will regulate the price of cement on the market when passed into law.
So I don't see anything outrageous, strenuous, extraordinary about the policies we are putting in place. So let's try it and see. I don't know what the provisional view of this matter is, but of course when we get in there and they start challenging me on this, we'll see what to do.
Yesterday you tried to lay this. They raised fundamental issues. Procedural.
No. I mean, get this. That's why I was telling those people this afternoon. They got to be careful about it. No, I didn't try to lay. Yesterday I spoke to the majority leader on what to do, but I've got this document to doing, and then he asked me if I had spoken to the minority leader. I said I hadn't, and he said, okay. Let him know. I would also let him know. Because see, constitutionally, all that it takes in the airlines is to go to Parliament.
And they start counting.
Say that they start counting. That's all there is to it. So all this about give this, let this person, it's in its very nature by Article 11 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, by the leadership, LI to be late.
That was your view, recall we had the conversation on the attempt last year to also, and you haven't succeeded.
Well, yet. No. You see the.
So the lessons there for this.
Evans, you said you haven't succeeded. It isn't because the other side has prevented me from doing it. We've got to be careful about some of this.
So what is the issue?
They cannot for any reason prevent me from. It's unconstitutional. They can make all the noise on earth about wanting to prevent me from laying it. Constitutionally, no authority. The Speaker cannot prevent me. That's an entirely different matter.
So you've withdrawn it yourself?
That's a different matter. You won't force me to give you the reason.
No, but it's important, right?
No.
If it's not because of the opposition.
No.
Why is it not?
Well, sure. Whether I decide whether I give you the reason or not is a matter.
Did you withdraw it?
It's my discretion.
I
don't intend to discuss it with you at the moment. But what is it that get it on record? The opposition cannot, the Speaker cannot, the Constitution mandates the procedure under which this is introduced. And that's what I intend to do.
So let me ask you then on this.
Yes.
Considering the opposition from the Cement Manufacturers Association,
yes.
How do you
I intend to ignore it.
I
am working in the interest of the good people of Ghana and not in the interest of the cement manufacturing company. Have you read the letter? I keep saying it's an insulting letter.
So
I responded to the person
when you
who
hope
wrote
to get this laid and counted?
Yesterday, after I discussed it with the leader and I discussed it with the minority leader, I am told subsequently that the Speaker asked the Select Committee on the legislation, Subsidiary Legislation Committee to literally grant through. Look, how many pages are this? One. That's all there is.
Yes,
so
it looks like there's 5 pages at most.
So it's out of my hands now. I've given it to my leader, majority leader, to get it laid.
So you expect that in 21 days this should become law?
It should become law. Yeah, when we lay it. Today's Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday.
Wednesday. Even Thursday, Friday, I suspect that.
Well, so he aims to lay the legislative instrument in Parliament and secure its passage before the current session expires. But Minority spokesperson on legal and constitutional affairs, Bernard Ahiafo, tells my colleague Kweku Asante the LI contravenes its parent act, the Ghana Standards Authority Act.
The committee also look at the law under which they were bringing the legislative instrument under reference. That is Ghana Standards Authority Act 2022. Act 1078, and with particular reference to the object of the authority, Ghana Standard Authority, and Section 80, things that the minister is empowered to do a regulation to cover. Some of us are with a view, particular regulation is in contravention with the Parent Act, or it is not born out of the Parent Act, because the Parent Act, by its objects, deals with all goods and services. That is, setting the standard for all goods and services, including the cement. And the understanding of the standard is controlling the quality of all goods and services produced in the country and imported into the country. So, by even the authority, Ghana Standards Authority, the authority is responsible for setting the standard in terms of the quality, but not price control. And nowhere was price control even stated throughout the airline. What came close to it is selling. And then if you are going to talk about selling is different from pricing of the goods and services. And we are of the view that if today an ally is allowed to pass through Parliament, which will set which will control the price of cement, then equally all goods and services produced in this particular country must go through price control, because you cannot single out only cement. When the Parent Act is dealing with all goods and services, then it means tomorrow there can be an ally to control the price of cement. There can be an ally to control the price of cassava. There can be an ally to control the price of rice. Anything being goods and services in this particular country can be subjected to price control.
Well, so Parliamentary Affairs Correspondent Kweku Asante joins us with more details. Kweku, you asked Bernard Ahiafo why they would allow won't allow the LI to go through, so that it can be challenged in court if they say it contravenes their parent law. What is their response, or his response to this?
So, Brace, you hear the ranking member of the Constitutional Legal Affairs Committee say that the Parent Act, which is the Ghana Standards Authority Act, does not allow the minister to be acted in this way. What he's suggesting is that the LI is patently unconstitutional, it's unlawful. My question to him is, if that is unconstitutional, that is the domain of the Supreme Court and the courts. They have the ability to interpret these laws and put them side by side and make an analysis and come to the conclusion whether a law is lawful or not. And so why would you not allow the minister lay this LI, let it mature into law? Then these cement manufacturers or any other person for that matter can't go to the court to challenge that. The answer of the minority is that if that position were allowed to be to hold, that would mean that Parliament can't do any job, and that as members of Parliament, they are allowed to scrutinize these regulations and make a point. He's also believing that they can't get to the point where they will be able to convince the minister that what he's doing may not be lawful, and they may drop this along the line. Listen.
Well, that is a very long procedure. Living together is just a matter of understanding. That is even the very essence of the time-tested practice and the convention of Parliament that LI are supposed to go through the pre-laying consideration. So having gone through the pre-laying consideration, the members of the committee should be able to make input, and if there is an understanding, one resort to a court procedure. So it's like, though there are so many ways of killing a cat, this is the immediate procedure that can be adopted. So the minister was before the committee, and conclusively, if a decision is being taken amicably, then whoever is to take a consequential step will take a consequential step. So I believe strongly the court should be the last resort. So when there are domestic remedies available, why do you then resort into the court? If everything in parliament will have to end up in court, then it means the court will gradually be converted into parliament. Whatever work that parliament is supposed to do, everything it ends up in the court. Everything it ends up in the court. That is not how it happens in other jurisdictions. So I believe we sometimes Jojo, and then we come to amicable conclusion on the issue. There are so many examples of LI that was brought, but through the pre-laying exercise, the sponsors also came with the realization that what the committee is saying is really the truth. So they couldn't even lay it in parliament because we are all looking at the law.
Well, Kojo, the minority is also claiming that if this proposed LI is allowed to become law, it could lead to what they describe as hoarding and black market activities. What basis did they give for this claim?
So according to Bernard Ahiafo, and if that is their conditional statement, should this LI even become law in the first place? These cement manufacturers are private entities who are working for profit. They can decide that if government tells them to sell at this particular price, then they will probably just sell a small portion of their produce to the market, let out a bigger part of that to black market activities so that they will be able to make profit, ultimately, which is their aim of being in business in the first place. He believes that the country Ghana should not be getting back to the place where government should be in the place of deciding for businesses how much they should be charging for their produce. That indeed, government should rather be looking at the cost of the dollar, the cost of doing business in the country, and ultimately that could lead to a downward reduction in the price of cement, and not by way of regulation.
That particular regime of price control to allow economic indicators to be able to determine the price of goods and services. And clearly, I am a lawyer, I'm not an economist, but I know there are determinants of pricing. A good example is that 3 months ago, $1 is 12 cedis, but today, $1 is 16 cedis. So if you used to buy a raw material at 12 cedis, today you are purchasing the raw material at 16 cedis. So if after purchase of the raw material outside the country will cost you 12 cedis and you have to sell the goods at 15 cedis in order to make profit together with other recoverable costs, and today the price of the same raw material has moved to 16 cedis, what do you think will happen to the price of the product? Definitely it will go up. Now another factor is interest rates. So we need to find a way of dealing with prices of goods and services general rather than using a method of price control. Now another problem that the committee has realized is that if you want to engage in price control, then it may lead to artificial shortage and black marketing. Artificial shortage and black marketing in the sense that if the cement producers, for instance, have taken a decision that, they will just produce a small quantity of cement, whoever can illegally purchase it at the price that they will sell it in order to make a profit should come for it and put it somewhere in the black market. And if you are looking for the cement in the system, you are not getting it, and you need it. It's an essential commodity. What will mean is that you have to resort to that particular black market to be able to purchase the product. I don't think as a country we need to be introducing laws that will take us back into price control regime. And we realize that the ministry may not even have the requisite personnel to be able to even check the price that they are fixing for the product all over the country. For instance, cement in Accra may be 90 cedis, but at the time that the cement gets to Zabila is 120 cedis.
Well, the Subsidiary Legislation Committee met today with the minister and to discuss this particular proposed LI. Kweku, we understand journalists were not allowed in. Do we have any info about the outcome? If you can do this for me in the next 10 seconds, I'll be grateful. Okay, so we don't have him, but let's go on the phone lines now and bring in Yusuf Sulemana, who is ranking on Trade and Industry Committee of Parliament. Grateful to you for joining us here. Now, if you listen to the Minister of Trade and Industry, he says there is little or there's nothing MPs can do to stop him from laying this LI. Your reaction?
Yeah, so first of all, it's not about there's nothing that MPs can do from stopping him. It's about ensuring that Ghana is not turned into a kangaroo kind of state. We are a state that will respect each other. We are a country that will want to do what is right. He didn't just come from his house as an individual to lay the legislative instrument. He's coming there as a minister of state, and he should know that he was elected. His president was elected, and the very people who elected him have their representatives in parliament that are supposed to speak for him. So we do know that he can go ahead to lay it if the speaker allows him. But at the end of the day, we want to make a law that will sort of inure to the benefit of the people. What are we talking about? If we do a law, it will create more problems. What will be the effects of doing that law? As I speak to you, I have spoken with the number of industry players, and they have all said that they were not even involved. They were not consulted. The truth of the matter is that if you look at the cost of producing cement, you can separate it into two broad components. You can look at activities, you can look at costs that government can have control over, and there's another cost that government will not have control over. For instance, pricing of cement will include taxation. Can some government do something about the taxation? Pricing of cement has something to do with levies. For instance, what to call the fumigation levy. Fumigation levy, when they bring in a clinker, they are supposed to fumigate it. Now, government doesn't fumigate it because it's not necessary, but yet government charges money for the services. Again, when you go to the port as we speak, when clinker comes, they are giving only one place that they can deck. What it means is that there's always some kind of congestion there, which leads to demurrage. And so they pay between $35,000 to $45,000 per container. And so if they pay demurrage and do all these things, at the end of the day, it builds up into the cost of production. Can government do something about this? Government can just liaise with the Ministry of Transport and, for that matter, GPA, so that they can give them more spaces to be able to deck. Once that is assured, I can tell you, manufacturers will be ready to reduce the price.
Okay,
you don't even need to legislate.
So,
if we are not careful, we end up legislating for every commodity in this country.
Okay, Sulemana, so you are talking about something that will benefit the majority. And I'm happy you mentioned that, you are there for the people of Ghana. Now, what if the people want a regulation that can control the price? I want you to listen to the voices of Ghanaians on the street of Accra, and then I'll come back to you for a reaction.
Actually, I do not agree to that bill.
Why?
Because by him saying that people will go to court and those kind of things, I don't see this as a reasonable idea. Because now the price of things have increased. So they buy things in terms of production and tax. Look at VAT alone, which is almost 15%. So where do you expect them to get their money? That means you want them to collapse their companies, which is impossible. Then they will divert their VAT into their customers. That is why this law cannot function. Actually, this year, Christ election year, I was expecting some high subsidies to be on cement and a lot of building materials. Look at Accra we are living. Most people, they don't have houses. Yes. So I was expecting that there should be subsidies on this. Not to send people to this thing. Called for a jail for 3 years. It does not make sense at all.
As you see, the price has been going up every day, all the time. And real estate, those who deal in real estate, they are spending money. And it's a lot of money that they are spending all the time. I myself am in Kaswa, even because I think the price here compared to Kaswa shouldn't be the same. But here is Accra, and the Kaswa too is it's in the central region. Maybe the high cost of living here, there is high cost of living in Accra than in Kaswa. So all that I would say is, if the bill is going to help us, then I'm okay with it.
So there you have it. Some customers feel that if the bill is going to help in regulating the prices, they are okay. These are your members. These are the people for the reason that you are in Parliament and you say you need to ensure that any law that is brought to Parliament and is inures to the benefit of them. So how do you react to them saying that if there's a law to regulate prices, they are okay, and to say that, well, manufacturers also say that you cannot then control them in pricing their commodities? Okay, so I would still get Yusuf Sulemana back on the line so we can have a chat with him here. But we also have Stephen. We have Stephen Deborah Ablotmeti, who is former Vice President of Ghana Real Estate Developers Association. Grateful to you, Stephen, for joining us. What do you make of all of these conversations going on? The minister says, well, we want to control how much cement manufacturers price their good. What's your reaction?
First of all, let me take the opportunity to greet all your discerning listeners and viewers as well, and to say that this particular bill is an exciting one for us developers. It is an exciting one for us because we have to grapple with cost of material from a very short interval. For instance, the last time cement price was increased in Ghana, well, just in May, it was increased by 10 cents. And then, as of this morning, we got a text message from the cement manufacturers that effective 1st of July, they are increasing it again by 12 cedis. Now, the truth of the matter is, if you're on a project that it takes you 24 months to develop, given the fact that cement contributes to about 70% of the building component, okay? Because once the price of cement is increased, the price of block is increased, price of concrete is increased, price of plastering materials are all increased because it is the same ingredients that affect them in terms of their component. So you realize that you get on a project from January. Before December, this project is already experiencing 30-45% increase in cost. How do you survive if you have agreed on a price of this very product with a buyer from the onset? So it's becoming ridiculous. And I think that a bill of this nature will bring some kind of sanity to the market, because we need to have price control so that we are able to meet the requirements of whatever we are supposed to be living up to. Yeah, and not only cement. In fact, the conversation should be extended to iron rods as well.
Okay.
Within the last 2 months, it's been 28% increase. How do we manage our costs as developers? So this is not getting funny at all. So we strongly support the position of the Honorable Minister to push this agenda, and with the backing of industry, we should be able to have some conversation that will be equitable for all on the market.
Do I take it that you don't buy the explanation by the manufacturers that, well, cost of input are on the rise and that's why it's important they also increase their product?
Well, I believe that if developers want to store the same cost, people will not be able to get properties in this country. Because if I sell a house at 40,000 Ghana cedis, I can't go back to my buyer and tell the buyer that the cement price has gone up, twice or thrice in a week, and the property is not completed. Therefore, I want you to readjust the price. We don't go and have such conversation. So at least there should be a price ceiling on the product for a minimum duration of time. If it is 12 months, then people can go about their duties without bothering themselves about all these arbitrary prices coming up.
Okay, so still on the line with me, I have Yusuf Sulemana, who is ranking on the Trade and Industry Committee. We'll still get him back so we can have a chat on this. We'll also be speaking to an economist on this to try and understand from the economist's point of view whether this is what we need or not. But grateful you're raising this point. Again, once you are into construction and they are also into manufacturing, you understand that doing this product comes at a cost. They are calling on government to say, why don't you fix the fundamentals of the economy? Don't you agree that they have a point also to call on government to fix the fundamentals so that we can all play at a fair playing ground?
Yes, they do have a point to call on government to assist so that they are able to also control and stabilize their price. There are so many incentives they can go for just to make sure that they are able to keep their price under control. Because the way things are going, we can easily predict that in the next year, we may be buying cement over 200 Ghana cedis. And how are we going to even get or realize our affordable housing dream? So these are some of the things we have to have a strong conversation around. If government will have to reduce some port duties for them on some of the components that they import in and all that, yes, they should go for that.
Okay.
And then the rest of the people can enjoy the equity.
Okay. All right. So stay with me. Let me bring in the ranking again. Suleiman, I'm grateful that you've rejoined. Now, you've heard the Greta, former vice president, there saying that it's important we have such a law to regulate the price of this commodity. What's your reaction when you hear the customers saying that it's important we get a law?
First of all, let's make this clear. Nobody is saying that the cost of cement in the country is acceptable. Nobody is saying that. And you can check the records. I started talking about high rises of cement since 2020. And I have provided a lot of solutions. And I hope that the Minister of Trade would have taken that on board. If he had done that, there wouldn't have been the need for any legislation. What we are saying is that the cement manufacturers are even ready to sit with the government, so that when government says that, look, fumigation levy that is charged on clinker, we are going to take it away. In any case, when the clinker comes, okay, there's no any fumigation, yet they are paying. So can government take it away? There are certain taxes that we think that are not necessary. And if government can take them away, there wouldn't be the need to even legislate. If we are not careful, we have to legislate when it comes to rice. If we are not careful, we have to legislate when it comes to sugar.
But Suleiman, I mean, are you convinced that it's because of some of these taxes that's why we are buying the product at the price we are buying today? Can it also be that the minister has cited profiteering on the part of manufacturers? Wouldn't that be a factor?
So what you do is to sit with them and let them know that the cost of producing cement, a bag of cement, is this. And now you look into it. The tax component, how far can government subsidize that? How far can government come in? Once government comes in, what they are doing is just a short-term measure, okay? We want the minority, our case is that we want a long-term measure that will inure the benefit of Ghanaians. I have a house I've been struggling to complete. Because of price of cement, I'm unable to complete it. I want a situation where whatever government is doing will be sustainable so that I will be able to finish the construction of my house so that so many Ghanaians can go in and so many Ghanaians can also build their houses. Don't forget that if we are not careful, we are going to introduce a system where these manufacturers can come together, okay, and ensure that they produce below supply.
Well, Suleimana, there's an associate professor of economics at the University of Massachusetts, Isabella Weber. Now, she argues that there's once more a choice between tolerating the ongoing explosion of profit that drives up prices or tailored controls on carefully selected prices. Price controls would buy time to deal with bottlenecks that will continue as long as the pandemic prevails. And as she says, strategic price controls could also contribute to the monetary stability needed to mobilize public investment towards economic resilience. I mean, this is an economist speaking there. You don't agree that price control is one of the ways we can help check inflation?
I think that we are not getting this right. Nobody is saying that price control is not right. Strategic price control regimes are right. But we are saying that in this particular case, it was possible for us, government, to do other things. That will not even be necessary for us to legislate. And that is what government is running away from. And we are saying that what government is doing is not sustainable and it can lead to other problems.
Okay, thank you, Suleiman, for joining. I'm grateful to you for sharing your point with your thought with us here on the top story. But let me bring in economist Professor John Gachi for a short conversation. Prof, what do you make of this discussion that the minister says, I want to have a law to regulate pricing of this commodity?
You ask yourself, why only cement if it's the right thing to do? Because you don't use only cement for construction. You use other materials which are also very sensitive to price development in the country. So we need to look at that because if we are not careful, we'll get to a point that all items which are sensitive to prices will be drawn under price control and will not be the best for the economy.
That's my point.
All right. I'm grateful to you, Professor John Gachi, for joining, and Suleimana also for joining. I'm grateful. This has been Top Story. Coming up next is Newsnight.
Auntie T, I beg, fix me go betete Ghana. No gari, no oil, no plantain, just beans then eggs.
Hey, brah, that be dangerous combination, no?
Problem no day. I feel handle am.
For Telecel, with the Bob say everybody gets what they like. That be why Made For Me bundles day. Based on your usage, if you get your own data and call packages, falla! Made For Me bundles like the way you the want town. That *530#, then buy Made For Me bundles today.
Telecel. Connecting energies.
The luckiest. Luck is everywhere. For everyone, yeah. The luckiest. Luck is everywhere. For everyone, yeah.
Doctors,
nurses,
barbers,
drivers,
bouncers,
friends,
teachers,
bankers.
Let's go.
The luckiest. Luck is everywhere. For everyone, yeah. The luckiest. Luck is everywhere. For everyone, yeah.
Doctors,
nurses,
barbers,
drivers,
bouncers,
friends,
teachers,
bankers. The luckiest. You could be the luckiest.
It's 2 days to the second edition of Joy News Impact Makers Award. Good evening and welcome to Newsnight.
In the next 60 minutes, surprise in court as Attorney General Godfrey Adami seeks his pound of flesh as he takes over in the middle of cross-examination of third accused person, Richard Jakba.
Grade vehicles into ambulances from what I also heard in court, and I'm not going into the merits of the issue, but from what we all heard in court, the certification for same was granted in April 2015.
Stay for details as Richard Jakba pushes back on AG's claim that Big C didn't have certification to operate when it was awarded the contract.
One particular aspect that took me aback was the clear ignorance of the Attorney General on what is ISO.
We have the latest for you on this ambulance procurement trial.
Also tonight, NPP National Council member and MP for Asante Achim North, Andy Apiakubi, stirs controversy, insisting Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh cannot be the right person to partner his party's flag bearer into the 2024 election.
We should find somebody who, if the presidential candidate is not there, he will hold the hand of a member of parliament and go and conduct campaign in that member of parliament's constituency. I don't see that happening in this equation.
He doesn't have the quality.
He cannot hold my hand.
We have details as the NPP MP describes national security as a busybody after the outfit conducted a survey that indicated the energy minister is a preferred person to partner Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
This survey, I find it very unnecessary. And like I said before, if I was the presidential candidate, I would even disappoint the national security and let them understand that they are busybodies in this matter.
And questions emerge over the feasibility of the United States of America setting up a military base in Ghana. Top U.S. military chief confirms to Joy News that he's made travels to coastal West Africa on the issue.
What country in West Africa is the U.S. military considering for a base after pulling out of Niger?
So yes, I've made travels across West Africa, across coastal West Africa. Those that are up against the growing threat.
So is the U.S. planning to set up a base here in Ghana? We have the answers for you in business.
Traders want Bank of Ghana to do more in the area of documents covering imports despite reviewing rules
for advance payments.
And sports, members of parliament urge sports minister to diversify investment beyond football and increase support for emerging sport disciplines to harness talent.
And much later, Disado College are champions of the Guel PLC Central Regional Championship after pulling a fast one past Wesley Girls to lift a hat-trick and earning the bragging rights as new champions in town.
Thinking gay girls are going to win. Who is gay? Who is Apawu? No school is able to compete with us. We've done it again and we're fighting for the third time. No school, the only college in Ghana.
We have the very latest also from the northern region. That and more in tonight's edition of News Night. Join us. We have thoughts and comments on all our social media platforms. Also on WhatsApp is 055 1111 997. I am Emefa Apawu.
And my name is Mensah. I want to take you to court now, to that raging case in the High Court. That involves the Attorney General right at the center of it all with Richard Jakpa. You know that particular case, the ambulance procurement trial. And today there was a bit of surprise in court when the Attorney General, Godfrey Ibadami himself, took over from his deputy in the middle of cross-examination and began to cross-examine Richard Jakpa himself, the third accused. I want to bring in right now my colleague Latif Idrisu, who has been in court for us today on this particular matter. And tell me, how did this happen? Because when this started, I've been following the live updates on myjoyonline.com, which obviously you were providing, and I noticed that it was his deputy, Alfred Choyebo, who started the cross-examination.
Correct. So Alfred Choyebo started with the cross-examination, which focused largely on the AG's dealings with Richard Jakpa, the telephone conversation, audio recording that has been tendered into evidence, the WhatsApp chats between Godfrey Dame and Richard Jakpa. And he also delved a bit into the Richard Jakpa's position at Richard Jakpa at Business Limited. That is a business entity that's went into contract with Big C for the procurement and conversion of the Sprinter buses into the ambulances. So when he concluded, well, I don't know if he concluded because he didn't conclude completely on that particular subject. Then, to everyone's surprise, Godfrey Dame stood up and then Choyebo sat. Then he continued. It was a very pacey cross-examination. Why? Because Dumso was interrupting the proceedings in court. And
Today.
So at a point, the trial judge declared that she will be forced to suspend proceedings because it was rampant. Every 5 minutes or even less than 5 minutes, goes off, comes back. So she said she will be forced to suspend proceedings because she's afraid the equipment in the courtroom could be damaged. Then the Attorney General came in and said, the executive will make sure that that situation is taken care of, it's fixed and all of that.
The Attorney General showed the judge.
Yeah, that's the executive will make sure that the situation is dealt with. There was a bit of a joke between the Attorney General and the trial judge at certain points in the trial. Then, so when he stood up, then he went straight into Richard Jakpa's military days and provided some documents to show that when Richard Jakpa was testifying and made pronouncement to the effect that he was released honorably by the Ghana Armed Forces, he wasn't telling the truth to the court.
In other words, he lied.
He lied. Richard Jakpa said that's not true. Then he provided some documents to Richard Jakpa to examine. He examined the documents, which we later got to know that it was some letters from the Ghana Armed Forces addressed to the Office of the Attorney General. So this is something the Attorney General has requested from the Military High Command, which they've been furnished with. And so...
And that document said what exactly?
That Richard Jakpa, I don't recall exactly, but essentially to say that
to discredit his testimony before that he was not
released honorably.
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
I remember that because he insisted on that the last time this happened. I think the first time it was cross-examined. He made the point categorically.
Yeah, so he wanted to make sure that Richard Jakpa was not discharged honorably.
And he produced this document.
And he produced a document
that apparently confirms the Attorney General's or the prosecution's position that he was dishonorably discharged.
So he asked him to read the heading on that document, which said that this is to discharge you for not meeting the standards of the military, and that his presence within the military, one, is not good for he himself, Richard Jakpa, and will not endear any good for the Ghana Armed Forces, that he was indebted to a lot of people within the military and institutions outside the military, reason why he was sacked within the Ghana Armed Forces. But the focus of the Attorney General's cross-examination had to do with the ISO and the fact that when Richard Jakpa and Big C had the contract that was approved by Parliament to procure these ambulances for the state, at that time, Big C did not have any ISO certification that gives that international company the go-ahead to convert Sprinter buses into ambulances. That was the crux of the Attorney General's, argument put to Richard Jakpa, that this company only got the ISO certification to convert Sprinter buses into ambulances somewhere in 2015. They got the contract to procure these ambulances for the government of Ghana way before that, to suggest that Big C didn't have any international backing, if you like, to go ahead and convert Sprinter buses into ambulances.
So this is Attorney General now himself, and the advice that come both from the judge to say try and step aside from the case. We've spoken to Samson, who's a lawyer, who had said it's going to be very difficult for the Attorney General to cross-examine him himself. And he started off, as we know, by sitting there and watching on. Today he got involved, and he seemed to be very armed with documentation that he had put to Richard Jakpa. But Richard Jakpa himself has been speaking shortly after the call. What has he been saying?
So Richard Jakpa said he's surprised. So the focus, like I said, is focused on the ISO certification. When the Attorney General put the first question to Richard Jakpa, the question the Attorney General sought to suggest to him was that ISO means that is when you are supposed to begin operating as a business entity. That was the initial question the Attorney General posed to Richard Jakpa, that this certification came in from ISO in 2015. So you would agree with me that as at when the Big C received the contract from the government of Ghana to procure the ambulances, they didn't have the authorization to do business. So for Richard Jakpa, he said he was taken aback when the Attorney General put that question to him, because ISO certification doesn't mean that is when someone is given authorization to commence business in any jurisdiction, and that it is when an organization or institution wants to up its game and do something that meets international standard.
One particular aspect that took me aback was the clear ignorance of the Attorney General on what is ISO certification. In fact, the Attorney General was arguing that the ISO certification is an incorporating registration, which means that Big C was incorporated in 2015. That's why he was claiming, using that. And I tried to educate him that is not an incorporation certificate. Because to incorporate a company, it must be done by a sovereign nation that have laws to incorporate companies. But ISO certification is a certification by international standard organization that satisfy manufacturing companies and private companies when they are manufacturing products about their quality standards. So, and it's renewed yearly. So seeing ISO 2015 doesn't mean that Big C was registered in 2015. And even the document you brought yourself, under it is latest issue, recertification. It tells you that it's being renewed every year. And the man was still swimming in his ignorance and wouldn't admit that a private company or a private organization cannot create a company to be in existence in a sovereign nation without going through the laws of that country. I don't need to teach him that.
And that there is Jakpa speaking to you in court today, right after this cross-examination by the Attorney General. And I bet he didn't also see that coming, that Attorney General himself will be putting questions to him.
I believe so.
And it is very, very possible that this was all part of strategy.
What was the expression on his face, though, when the AG took over?
I mean, so I put that question to him. He said he wasn't surprised at all, but he was taken aback by the AG's position when he took over and started cross-examining him. But he wasn't surprised the AG took over from his deputy, Chiayeboa. One thing also that the Attorney General puts to Richard Jakpa is that Big C, as captured in the contract, was never mentioned anywhere within what Parliament approved, talking about the contract between the government of Ghana for the ambulances to be procured. According to the Attorney General, Big C was never mentioned in that document.
And there's something else that came up in court that I'm interested in. Of course, something that we've all been witnesses to. That secret recording, the AG's department today challenged the authenticity of it, as in the minutes that we had, as against how long they actually spoke.
Yeah.
And that also came up to the court.
So, Richard Alfred Chiayeboa said the third accused has deliberately deleted part of what he recorded, that conversation between himself and the Attorney General, to make his case. And that he didn't record the Attorney General from between 9 to 10 minutes of that conversation. Richard Jakpa says he disagreed. And in fact, on that day, when the Attorney General called him, he was driving and on his way to see his lawyer when the Attorney General called to ask him to get fake medical excuse duty so he couldn't show up in court and all of that. That, he said, is not true, but it was between 9 to 10 minutes in the conversation with the Attorney General that he realized that the Attorney General's line of conversation was heading towards committing something that is criminal. So he decided that, okay, let me begin to record, because he didn't like the tangent of the Attorney General's conversation with him. And so it is not true that he recorded only all the 26 minutes of conversation between himself and the Attorney General. And it was when he realized that the line of, conversation of the Attorney General borders on criminality. And that is when he decided to record him.
Now, let's talk about what we've been hearing from the AG's office after this, because we've heard from Jakpa, but the spokesperson for the Attorney General also spoke to the press.
Yeah, so he went back to the same ISO certification for Big C to convert sprinter buses into ambulances, and says that based on what they have presented to the court, on the face of it, it shows that Big C, at the time they got the contract to convert the sprinter buses into ambulances, they didn't have an ISO certification.
Whether or not Big C, for instance, had the license or the certification to upgrade vehicles into ambulances, from what I also heard in court, and I'm not going into the merits of the issue, but from what we all heard in court, the certification for same was granted in April 2015. Now, this means that Big C got the license or were registered.
That's what prosecution has presented, correct?
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying.
It could be the case that there are other certifications from 2008, 2009 that you didn't present to the court, because you have presented what to suit your case.
No, we presented the facts, and in that document we all heard in court, and I'm sure you heard yourself in court, where the accused person read that the accused person originally registered in April 2015. So the ISO certification is abundantly clear, originally registered in April 2015. Now, this is important to note this date, because this date is subsequent to when even the ambulances were procured in the country. Remember the agency agreement, and this is all what I heard in court. I repeat, I'm not going to the merits of the issue. The agency agreement was executed, I think, in November 2011. And then in December 2012, I think there was a parliamentary approval. Subsequent to that is when the ambulances came into the system. That was 2014.
Now, today also in court, I had a host of NDC officials there also to sort of back what was happening. You know that they still at the heart of this is a minority leader case, letter forcing, and the allegation had been that he had been the target all along. We heard from the National Communications Officer of the NDC.
Yeah, but quick one. So the judge on this ISO issue regarding Big C intervened at a point and asked the parties, we are expecting Big C to be cross-examined, aren't we? They all said yes. Then he said, okay, then let's move on from there. So Big C would also be cross-examined on, and I'm sure this ISO issue will come up again. So yes, we had the National Communication Director of the NDC in court, some members of Parliament in court, regional chairperson of the NDC in court, traditional rulers from the central region in court, and Sami Jemfi spoke to the media briefly after the ruling, the trial.
As the Dishonorable Attorney General Godfrey Yeboah-Dame has consistently demonstrated or displayed, you saw a display of ignorance and illiteracy on very basic things that you expect a person who occupies such high office, to understand. But before I go into those issues, it's important for us to respond to certain reckless and irresponsible comments that have been made by the Dishonorable Attorney General Godfrey Yeboah-Dame. I'm sure that over the last few days you've seen videos of the Attorney General somewhere in London in the United Kingdom claiming that the case of the accused persons have crumbled under cross-examination. It is important to put it on record that the only person whose case has crumbled, the only person who has been exposed as a crooked character, a dishonorable character, and a liar throughout the proceedings is not Mr. Jakpa, neither is it Honorable Ato Forsen, but rather Godfrey Yeboah-Dame.
And that there is a National Communications Officer of the NDC, Sami Jemfi. And this is your election headquarters. It's brought to you by Petrosol Clean Fuel in Full Quantity, CIMA, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, AICPA, and CIMA together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, the German Ozone Medical Center, Alternative Therapy, Dental, Wellness and Beauty, Chopbox Technologies, a convenient service, Youth Break Foundation, bridging gaps for positive youth development.
And tonight, barely 24 hours after it emerged that NPP flag bearer Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has informed President Akufo-Addo about his decision to pick Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh as his running mate for the 2024 election. An NPP National Council member and MP for Asante Achim North has come out against the decision. Andy Apiakubi says Matthew Opoku-Prempeh is not acceptable to the entirety of the NPP base, particularly members of parliament. He says the energy minister cannot go to many constituencies to campaign.
Well, I wouldn't speak for a majority because, as I told you, we have not been consulted as a caucus for us to state our position. But me, Apiakubi, you can solicit my view on that. If it was for me to choose, I would choose him. Why? He's not my preference. Me.
He's not your preference?
Yes.
Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh is...
Apiakubi is saying that he is not my preference. But that doesn't mean that he is not qualified.
Do you have a preference?
Well, if there was an opportunity like that, I would express a candidate, however acceptable or otherwise, to our presidential candidate.
What candidate
I would want somebody. I would want somebody who will be open with the people on the ground, who will be able to deliver the votes, and who would also submit to the presidency, and who will also be important in bringing parliament closer to executive. I would probably select somebody who is more acceptable by the generals going to the war, the parliamentarians. We should find somebody who, if the presidential candidate is not there, he will hold the hand of a member of parliament and go and conduct campaign in that member of parliament's constituency. I don't see that happening in this equation.
He doesn't have the qualities.
He cannot hold my hand. So why would I say that I prefer him? He cannot hold my hand.
Well, let me bring in a parliamentary affairs correspondent, Kweku Asante, on this explosive interview. Well, Kweku, Andy Apiakubi has also been describing national security as a busybody. We'll get into that. But did he explain to you why Napo cannot hold his hand?
Well, he believes that the Energy Minister, Martin Foku Prempeh, does not have the quality to be able to rally members of parliament together. He says, for instance, when the vice president is unable to go to a constituency or a region to campaign, you need a person that can command the respect, that command the unity of the party to be able to go to such places, campaign with the members of parliament. He says that as far as he is concerned, the energy minister, who's also the colleague here in parliament, does not have that kind of respect among his own colleagues in parliament. He does not have what it takes to be able to go into their constituencies and lead them. And he, for instance, believes that the energy minister cannot come to his constituency and raise his hand and say that this is the person that the party is putting forward, because he simply does not have what it takes. And he believes that if he has the choice to make, if this comes to National Council eventually, and he asks of an opinion of who should be the person to partner the vice president, it will certainly not be Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh. It will be somebody else. He's not ready to put out a name yet because he believes, as a member of National Council, this may come to them and he may have that opportunity to offer his suggestions.
And well, we hear him say that the caucus was not consulted on this. Well, he takes on the national security also, describing it as a busybody.
Yes, you will recall that just about 2 weeks ago, the national security is reported to have conducted a survey that points out that the energy minister is the most preferred person within any patriotic party to partner the vice president. He says the national security does not have any mandate to be doing so. The party's constitution does not confer the national security any right to be going around. He says he interprets what the national security is doing to be literally campaigning for somebody to become the running mate, and he described them as busybody that is doing something that no one has asked them to do.
Where in our MPP constitution does it state that at a time like this, the national security will conduct a survey? Where is it? And is it the case that anybody would have instructed them to go and conduct a survey? And who did that? And if somebody did that, whose expense will it be? And why would we subject a national institution like national security to conduct a survey for a particular person? Or why would somebody come under a directive to conduct a survey in respect of one person's appointment or one person's nomination? I think national security has more to do than this survey. This survey, I find it very unnecessary. And like I said before, if I was the presidential candidate, I would even disappoint the national security and let them understand that they are busybodies in this matter. Nobody invited them into this.
You would disappoint them
by not sticking to the candidate they're promoting. I mean, when did it become the function of national security to be promoting a particular candidate for nomination into a position of running mate? When? Why now? And at whose instance?
And Kweku, this is a National Council member of the NPP. Well, does he give any indication, though, as to when this name will be presented to them?
He does not have that indication at all, and he's worried that the party is delaying. He believes that the circumstances around the 2008 election, when Dr. Bawumia was appointed running mate deep into the year, is different from this election. He believes that the party must appoint a running mate and hit the grounds running as soon as possible. He says that as a council member, he's not aware that any name has been floated. They are waiting for the vice president to give them an indication that he wants to meet them and present their names. And when they go there, he says, subject to the spirit of the new patriotic party, some of them will make their positions known quite forcefully.
We have had situations where National Council has confirmed some nominees. We have had situations where National Council has declined confirmation of a nominee. So it can be A or B. So for now, we are only just waiting on the presidential candidate to exercise his mandate of nominating one of members of the party as his running mate.
Are you surprised that some names are already going around and there are talks that a name has been presented to the president and the president seems to have accepted that name?
I have heard various names being bandied about, but as I know, in seasons like this, everybody wants to be heard. So people are doing necessary campaigns, and I've heard quite a lot. Is it just by constitutional details? Are we supposed to campaign for selection? The answer is no. So all those who are just campaigning, I'm sure they are wasting their time. If I was the presidential candidate, I would decline nomination of any one of them who are contesting and campaigning unconstitutionally to be recognized. I would have disappointed them, because I don't appreciate the aggression people are putting into a campaign like that. It is unconstitutional, and it is unfair on the presidential candidate. It's very, very unfair. He must have the peace of mind to look through the whole army and select the one who will complement his ticket. It is unfair and untoward for people to want to influence him by way of engaging other people in the media and the citizenry to campaign for it. I haven't heard and seen any presidential candidate being confronted with campaigns as we have seen this time.
And I was hoping that this would have come before State of Play earlier today.
Oh, yes, earlier today.
To hear the views of the big heads on this particular matter.
I mean, at least finally we're hearing somebody say something different from what everything else we've been told that we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks. And we'll see what storm this triggers. Maybe there are many more in there who have not said something yet, and maybe open the floodgates. Very interesting times ahead. But we anticipate that possibly by the close of next week, that name should be formally out before Andy Apiakubi and his colleagues. But let's stay on politics and in the election headquarters, shall we? Because the Electoral Commission has been mounting a strong defense of its transparency record as it organizes several exercises ahead of the 2024 elections this year. We've been listening to the chairperson of the EC, Mensah, who has been meeting civil society organizations today.
I believe this will go a long way to strengthening our own processes and leaving us in a better place.
What is your assessment of the conduct of the electoral process so far? Would you say you are satisfied? And what were some of the major issues that came up that you had to address?
Of course, we are satisfied with the electoral process so far. You may be aware that to date, we've organized the voters' registration exercise. We did have some bottlenecks in the first 2 days as a result of the slow network. We went ahead to increase the days by 2. We added 2 days so that it would make up for the lost time, the time we lost in the first 2 days. Since then, we provided, the public with the data. We are pleased that the registration was highly participatory. As you may be aware, we targeted some 623,000 new registrants. We exceeded that target, and I believe we registered a little over 770,000 new registrants. So we are happy that it was participatory. We are happy that, various stakeholders, even the vulnerable in society, took advantage of the registration process and participated actively in it. We had a high encouraging participation from persons with disabilities. And so far we are happy with what is happening. Of course, there's room for improvement, and we continue to work to improve our processes.
And guess who else was in this meeting with the Electoral Commission executives? Koku Anyudoho, a CEO and founder of the Tamils Institute. And he's advocating that all of us journalists should be allowed in the room the next time the Inter-Party Advisory Committee meets. Why? Because as you know, sometimes we finish a meeting and we're hearing different sides of the same issue. You're wondering who's actually telling us the accurate story. This is his suggestion, how the EC can deal with that.
It's a collaborative work. If we, the CSOs, also begin to understand that some of these things, or a lot of these things, are happening not because the EC is an active participant, but it's because some people deliberately want to create confusion, then we must help the EC tell that story to the nation that So I'm not speaking here for political parties, and this is just the CSOs and the ECs.
But you are an observer. I mean, you have been observing from afar to the negotiations or the conversation between the EC and the political parties.
Oh yeah, it came up yes, one of the issues that came up strongly was the EC's engagement with the political parties at IPAC, and how very often some decisions are taken here. But like I said earlier on, the political parties run out to go and speak about it to score their own political points. So I think there's some general consensus coming up that then maybe, you, the media, must be allowed to participate in the IPAC meetings as observers, yes, but you will also be able to follow so that if anything goes out wrongly, you can counter. Another side of it is also that immediately after IPAC, there must be a communique that is handed over to you, the media, signed off by all the political parties. Then, so if after that anybody goes out and is telling another story, the media yourself, you'll be able to tell the people that, look, we're not interested in your story.
Well, Kojo also took their turn, and they are alarmed about what it has observed as heightened tension among Ghanaians ahead of the polls.
There are certain things that the public need to know, especially about transparency in elections. There are a lot of people in this country who just take it that the EC is always there to steal elections. And this notion must be disputed. I have been a victim of the fact that once when I was with the EC, some election results came from Kumasi or Ashanti region and so forth and so on. I had to run away. You know, people are ignorant by elections in this country. I've always been maintaining and saying that it's not easy. It's difficult to rig an election. It's difficult. And so, if the EC has now opened its doors to everybody, and especially with the CSOs, we are going to tell the story together with the EC, and we would have to educate the people. I have a feeling that we need to be very careful this year because of the nature of the election that we're going to have.
Why?
Well, because tensions are very high. The economic situation in the country sometimes is dicey. People are desperate.
What is causing the tension?
We need to educate the people about peace. The emphasis in this particular election this year should be about peace. How we should be able to convince people to go and vote peacefully and get back to their bases.
Well, that's Kojo Albert Ahin, his national coordinator. It's time for business. George Riafe has the very latest. Hello, George.
Hi, Emefa. And coming up, traders want Bank of Ghana to do more in the area of documents covering imports, despite reviewing rules for advance payments. And economist Professor Peter Kote described establishment of sinking fund to service interest payments as prudent, but fears if government to be disciplined with spending and setting aside the required monies into this fund. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, Interstanks, and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal.
Hey, so as for you, every day you are just pressing your phone. Why? Are they paying you?
They are, Oma.
Eh?
The more I use my MTN, the more points I get. And I can use those points to get airtime, data, and even discounts at shops and restaurants.
Hey, so that is why all of you are always pressing your phones. And you won't tell us, so that we too we can enjoy some.
Oh, ma.
There's always more to enjoy with MTN Rewards. Just keep talking, testing, and browsing all day, every day to collect your points and use it to redeem amazing offers and discounted freebies right away. There's so much available for you. So dial *550# and get your reward today. Let's go. Everywhere you go.
Kweku, have you heard what they are doing on MTN?
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kingdom Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302-764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website, www.kingdomgh.com.
what is football. I elevated Inter to the pinnacle of European football by winning the treble. I beat the unbeatable Barcelona with Real Madrid, breaking all records on the way. I feel the hearts of the Romanists with joy after winning their first European title. I am relentless. I am ambition. I am a winner. I am José Mourinho. I am football.com.
Place your bets now.
Choboy! We have a new leader in town. Obiarentie. Amanfo. Madam was Sibebre. When him say my baby, maybe more charcoal for whiter teeth. More charcoal. Not only that, maybe lemon. More lemon. Zinc for fresher breath. More zinc. And fluoride for stronger teeth.
Introducing the new President Charcoal packed with more power with a combination of charcoal and lemon for naturally whiter teeth. Grab yours now. This advert is FDA approved.
Hello, my name is Mami Akua, an entrepreneur and a mother of two. My work keeps me busy most of the time and sometimes it takes me away from my family. But the safety and health of my family is very important to me. As a working mother, I cannot afford to take any chances when it comes to matters of health. That is why I signed up for a family healthcare plan from Equity Health Insurance. My family and I have access to over 700 hospitals, clinics, opticians, dentists, pharmacies, and diagnostic centers across the length and breadth of Ghana. With Equity Health Insurance, I no longer have to worry about medical bills. Anytime a member of my family visits a hospital, Equity Health Insurance has got my family and I covered. What about you? Who has got you covered?
Call Equity Health Insurance on 050-660-7910 and talk to them about your family health needs now. Visit equityhealthinsurance.com for more information. Equity Health Insurance, here for you.
The luckiest. Luck is everywhere for everyone. Yeah. The luckiest. Luck is everywhere for everyone. Yeah.
Doctors,
nurses,
barbers,
drivers,
bouncers,
friends,
teachers,
bankers. You could be the luckiest. You could be the luckiest.
East, west, north, south, you are meant to be.
You could be the luckiest. You could be the luckiest.
Accra to Haga.
Let's go. The luckiest. Luck is everywhere for everyone. Yeah. The luckiest. Luck is everywhere for everyone. Yeah.
Doctors,
nurses,
barbers,
drivers,
bouncers,
friends,
teachers,
bankers. The luckiest. You could be the luckiest.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, traders say they still want the Bank of Ghana to do more in the area of documents covering imports. The central bank this week announced that it has made some changes covering advance payments for imports of goods. Now, this has also increased the amount requiring the advance payment from $50,000 to $200,000. President of the Ghana Union of Trade Association, that is Joseph Obeng, says they still have some issues with some requirements.
We've been pleading that the documentation should be reviewed so that it will encourage a lot more people, or especially traders, to transact through the mainstream banks rather than through the black market system where they are comfortable plying their trade because of documentation. So yes, they are doing something about it, but I think we still have to engage with Bank of Ghana to see how, at least for the informal sector, if they can still relieve that from some of the documentation. Yeah.
Joseph Obeng is president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Now, economist Professor Peter Kojo has described as prudent moves to establish sinking fund to aid interest payments of restructured debts. Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Mina Dam, at a meeting with the Paris Club members in France, announced that the fund will soon be established to aid these payments. Professor Kojo is worried about whether government will remain disciplined when it comes to setting aside these monies.
We ought to make conscious effort and save towards this. We don't have to say we'll wait so we have self-sufficiency. our budget is balanced, it will not happen. So it has to be a conscious effort, something like a forced savings to contribute towards the fund. We can't service this debt and ensure going forward that there is prudent spending, ensure that going forward we do not borrow beyond a threshold. So legislating our debt GDP ratio itself is one of the sure steps to ensure that we remain sustainable.
Economist Professor Peter Kote, now Chief Executive of the Ghana Enterprises Agency, Kojo, says small businesses are expected to witness some significant growth in the coming months. Now, this is based on the level of support being extended to them and them also being classified under the Ghana Enterprises Agency's regulation of 2023. Now, speaking at the launch of the new regulation, which also coincided with World MSA Day, she explained that this will help improve policies targeted at supporting the growth of the sector.
It allows policymakers to understand the sector in which they need to support. It allows us to design interventions without randomly coming up with interventions. Because now you know what the sector is, you know what the type of people you're working with is, and you know what type of needs that they might have. What does it also do for policymakers? One of the things we seek to do as Ghana Enterprises Agency is to set up a database, a major database. We do have one, but now we're going to reclassify our database and also expand that database. It allows us to segment the micro, small and medium enterprises, the businesses available. It allows us to then also take these MSMEs and say, what interventions are we giving them? How do we migrate them?
Kojo is Chief Executive of the Ghana Enterprises Agency. Now, CAT's International Board for West Africa, Kusia DeMarco, is questioning moves by Trade Minister Katie Amon to try and control the pricing of cement in the country. The minister this week laid a legislative instrument seeking to establish a ceiling when it comes to pricing of the product. The boss of the trade think tank noted that this is bound to fail.
We live in a free market economy. And if people take risks to import and they want to sell their goods, then they should be allowed to sell them in a way that it will be profitable for them. And mind you, there are multiple players in the market. So, for example, if Company A decides to sell 8 bags of cement for 200 Ghana cedis, Company B can sell it for 50 Ghana cedis. And that is what competition does. But if government want to see that the prices of cement are stabilized, the first thing I will say is the cedi-dollar exchange rate. That's number one. Number two, we need to also have a competition law to regulate the conduct of these players. In the absence of competition law, what most of these business can be doing is what? Fixing prices. They could be agreeing on what? That look, let's fix how much we sell these products to the market. Price regulation will not fix this.
Director of the West African Regional Center of CATS International, Kusi Adumako. Now, Cal Bank has secured Securities and Exchange Commission's approval to go ahead with the processes to raise some 400 million Ghana cedis from its shareholders. Now, this was after legal action challenging the process was abolished. Now, based on this development, the bank can now go ahead to offer shares to successful applicants. The bank is also planning to use part of the funds raised to help meet the new capital requirement coming from the Bank of Ghana. Let's turn our attention to the stock market. And if you were a shareholder of Mensah oil palm plantation, there was some good news for you because it was the only gainer at the end of trading on the Ghana Stock Exchange. Was up by a peso to close at 22 Ghana cedis, 21 pesos. Now, if you've also had invested on the Ghana Stock Exchange from the beginning of the year to now, returns now stands at more than 22%. And that's all for business on Newsnight.
We can now do sports. Bow.
Yeah, Evans, let's head to Parliament because members of Parliament have been calling the Sports Minister, Mustafa Yusuf, to broaden his focus beyond football and increase investment in facilities for emerging sports disciplines across the country. Now, speaking on the floor of Parliament following a report by the Sports Minister on the African Games, Honourable Sarah Joseph urged the Minister to shift attention away from football and enhance support for other sports like basketball by providing more facilities.
As a country, we seem to be focusing too much on soccer, but there are other sporting activities that need a lot of investment, like table tennis, lawn tennis, running, and nowadays the young people are more also interested in the American American sport. So, I will urge the Minister for Sports that we should move a little bit away from the traditional sporting activities that we are putting money into and look at the other emerging sporting activity. I know that a few have been constructed, but I would urge the Minister that as we do the AstroTurfs, as we do more of those investments, we should also think about how we are going to improve our basketball courts for the young ones.
That's Honorable Sarah Adjo-Safo, Member of Parliament for Dome Kwabenya there. Well, events, Euros group stage is done. Round of 16 fixtures now. Game starts on Saturday. And I just want to give a prediction for these two games, though. Switzerland versus Italy.
Italy.
Okay, then you have Germany versus Denmark.
Germany.
Okay, so that's the fixtures for Saturday. We'll see how.
You should have asked me to bet before I gave you the answers. Put some money on it, man.
Okay.
Anyway,
You don't have
we'll
a
come
good
back
track
on Monday.
record when it comes to betting. We all know that. You never pay.
That is.
So you have no business in betting.
Provided I lose. If I win, that's fine.
It's time for Clean Air. And women working in small-scale palm oil production face severe health risks from hazardous conditions, including or involving high heat and constant exposure to toxic smoke. Thousands of women are being sickened and risking death from illnesses resulting from this work. Mona Lisa Frimpong reports from Oforikrom in the Ashanti region.
Vivian and Charity are some of the thousands of women whose health is threatened by the harmful effects of cooking with firewood. According to the World Health Organization, nearly 4 million people each year die from household smoke produced by dirty stoves and fuels. According to Medical Coordinator for Doctors in Business Organization, Dr. Florence Boampunsim, she says the smoke will cause a range of illnesses.
Sometimes it even goes as far as triggering asthma, So there's triggering of respiratory issues like asthma, we have the skin blemishes, we have the respiratory breathing problems, the blurred vision. It actually goes hand in hand with other kind of exposures, but wood to the same kind of gas that comes out causes that, because it's quite dangerous to our health.
For females, Dr. Boampunsim says they are likely to suffer from hormonal imbalance from long-term exposure to smoke.
So it causes hormonal imbalance for some of the women. We also have low immunity. So the more you are sitting by these gases that are being exposed from the firewood, it causes a lot of dehydration issue.
Dirty cooking practices are also contributing to climate change. Despite her painful symptoms, Vivian Fori rarely seeks medical care.
In Ghana, we all do not like going for checkup. As long as I am able to stand on my 2 feet, I am okay. We get so sick often coming into contact with this high heat and smoke. If you do not drink blood tonic for a week or in a month, you will be seriously ill.
That's a Clean Air series.
And it's in collaboration with the New Narratives. Funding was provided by the Clean Air Fund. As you know, the funder had no say in the content of the story you just heard there. Now, Commander of the United States of America, Africa Command, AFRICOM, that's Marine Corps General Langley, has confirmed to Joy News that he has made travels to coastal West African countries, including Ghana, in the wake of the withdrawal of U.S. forces from their base in Niger. And as you know, that's a very controversial topic across the West African sub-region. The foreign troops, up until May this year, were deployed to the Sahelian country to monitor regional violent extremism activity. Now, however, following the ouster of Niger's democratically elected president, Mohamed Bazoum, the military junta reached reached an agreement with U.S. authorities for a total withdrawal of American forces, which will take place no later than 15 September 2024. Today, it is emerging at a virtual news conference after a meeting of African Chiefs of Defense Staff in Gaborone, Botswana, that the AFRICOM commander, General Langley, visited countries such as Ghana in the wake of the withdrawal of troops from Niger. Now, the general himself has been responding to the question as to whether or not Ghana will be considered by the U.S. military in the setting up of a new military base. Listen.
So the question was, how has the risk changed with the withdrawal of the French and U.S. troops from the Sahel region? I say the Sahel has become less safe. One, because of the expanded numbers across a number of factions or violent extremist organizations, whether we're talking about JNM or ISIS Sahel or ISIS West Africa. Boko Haram is still there. So it is very, very much has increased across the region. And now it's at the cusp of affecting coastal West Africa. But our way forward is to engage with these countries, identify what their needs are, in which they will lead a enduring solution. In most cases, it will be a whole of government approach on their end as well.
The question is, what country in West Africa is the U.S. military considering for a base after pulling out of Niger, Benin, Ghana, or after pulling out of Niger, Benin, Ghana, or Ivory Coast?
With this growing terror threat, knowing that this is these are shared threats, it's not all just security structure. Is building our institutions across their whole of governments that would be a panacea to countering the threats of violent extremist organizations. So yes, I've made travels across West Africa, across coastal West Africa, those that are up against the growing threat, whether it's on their borders or already across their borders. And I listen to what they need to be successful, and wholeheartedly, and pretty consistent. They understand and they tell me it's a whole of government approach. So building out those institutions. This is married up with what we have passed in the past years called the Global Fragility Act.
Well, that's one of the main stories dominating international conversation on the back of the withdrawal of the troops from Niger.
It's time for National Science and Maths Quiz. And guess who the champions of the Central Region for the National Science and Maths Quiz are? It's not St. Augustine's. Santa Clausians, though. The Zebra Boys beat 2020 champions Wesley Girls, Ghana National College and APAM to lift their third consecutive trophy and setting a new record in the region. James Aveji has more from Cape Coast.
It is all over here in the Central Region, and the Zebras of Adisadel have carried the day for the third time. They were champions in 2022, 2023, and now 2024. They made that with some 41 points. Such a glorious moment for them. Let's have an interaction with them. I have talked with you when you won your competition to the Nationals. What do you have to tell me now?
I told you, even if Boche comes, we are going to, no matter the school that is coming, we are winning. I told you we are winning for the third time, and we have done it today. Some were thinking gay girls are going to win. Who is gay? Who is APAM? No school is able to compete with us. We've done it again, and we've won it for the third time. No school. The only college in Ghana, Adisadel College.
The only college in Ghana, indeed.
Let's go to the Northern Zone and Bright Quick, who has been monitoring events there. What's happening?
Well, Emefa, I must tell you that here in the Northern Region, specifically in Tamale, we are having the grand finale for the Northern Zonal Championship, and we just ended the second round. We are waiting the scores, but at the end of the first round, we are having Tamale SHS in the lead with some 20 points, as their city rivals, that is Ghana SHS and also St. Francis Xavier, with 16 points each. But I must say that it's really a heated contest between these three schools, and one cannot easily predict who would win at the end of the day. We can only wait for the Christmas dress score at the end of the final round, and then we'll know who is crowned the champion for the Northern Zone Championship.
And we can't wait for that to happen. That's my colleague Emmanuel Bright Kweku. And remember, we are getting ready for the second edition of the Joy News Impact Makers Award this Saturday at the Accra International Conference Center. You cannot miss it. It will be live on the Joy News channel, Joy 99.7 FM, and all our social media platforms. That's our show for this week, in fact. We have Ghana Connect tomorrow with Kweku Asante. You want to stay?
And we'll be connecting with Kenya and Ghana. What's common and what's not in the wake of the protest we've seen there that's forced the hand of the president of Kenya to back off with that new finance bill. And you also want to join Lex's bill right after us because he has a very riveting conversation in prospect. Mr. Samuel Sapon, former MD of the National Investment Bank, will be his guest.